Hey guys, I'm Helena. So today we're going to go on with our little series, and we're going to talk about death with Wagner. So we kind of started this a few weeks back when we talked about the assassination, about the murder of Charlie Kirk, a bit in the serious stuff, and I'm glad there were a few people watching this. As you know, I don't do this for the clicks, I only do this like kind of for me, and I just love to talk about this. Even though I would have really wanted to not talk about the assassination of Charlie Kirk or any political figure in the Western world. But we're going to go on with talking about death in theatre, and we have a lot of that. In Wagner. We're just gonna concentrate on the big ones, so we're not gonna say, oh yeah, this guy got killed in this scene. Yeah, no, we're gonna concentrate on the like major deaths. There's also not gonna be a ranking in this, or maybe we get a ranking out of this, in the sense of a useless death, a non-useless death. Okay. Maybe we get something out of this. So we're going to start with the Flying Dutchman. Obviously, the Flying Dutchman he wants to die. He craves death. He desperately wants to die. He seeks for a woman to be true to him till death, and then he can die alongside her. This is the whole part of it. The whole Flying Dutchman is about death, about his death, and if Senta is the one who can release him to death. So in this case we have death as the sort of relief. He has been on Earth for centuries. He wants to die. He needs to die. He's tired, and it's not only him, but it's his whole crew. It's his whole ship. We have this Davy Jones thing going on where he cannot die. So in this case, of course, we have death as something good, as a relief. I don't know if I'm so happy like how it plays out with Senta, because she only kills herself to relieve him. Still not a feminist, but well, if she wants to do that, she will do that. She's his angel. If this makes it easier for everyone else involved, probably not. I would think, actually, I would wonder, if you were her family, would you say, oh, she did a good thing, she's an angel? Or would you say, she helped this guy kill himself? What? Also, in this case we have suicide, but suicide that is glorified by the theatre, which is not something we normally have in that many cases. You know what I mean? And we don't look at it as suicide that much. It's more of helping him to die, and he dies alongside her. But it's still suicide. It's like what I heard, like, again, I went Charlie Kirk because I heard this like a few days ago when they said we should stop talking about him being assassinated. We should say it's murder, it's homicide, it's manslaughter. That's what it is. And not just saying assassination, because assassination sounds too nice, basically. But again, it's suicide what she does. And if that makes the life of her family so much easier, I mean, it's her father's only daughter. I would think that he would be not that happy about it. Especially when this whole ship that sank was with his gold, that he would have gotten if Senta and the Dutchman actually got married. Considering that he basically sold off his daughter to the Dutchman. Also father figures, great thing for another episode. Considering that he basically sold his daughter for the entirety of the gold that is on the ship of the Flying Dutchman, he is probably not that happy about that ship sinking. And also, I don't think that the ship just sinks and then it sits in the bay and you can just go down there and get the gold up, but it's, I think, more of a it sinks and then it vanishes, because it should have never been there, and I don't know. Tell me your thoughts in the comments. Then we have, obviously, Tannhäuser again. Again, relief. Death is a relief in Tannhäuser. It's kind of the same thing as we have with the Flying Dutchman. And I'm not sure, I always don't, because I'm not so much into Tannhäuser, does Elisabeth also commit suicide? Or does she just die? I think it's also suicide. We have the same, literally the same constellation where you have a bad man and a woman, a good woman, who has to rescue him by sacrificing her own life for that. When we think about that, Wagner is basically an anti-feminist in every sense of the word. He wrote the best female characters, even if this one begins with an E. And she's still so stupid that she would give her life for this guy. But, yeah, well. I don't know. I would have seen that she probably killed herself on the stage of Bayreuth. But I had to cough and I went out and I didn't get in again. So, which is okay, by the way. Like, obviously, it was really stupid to think that they would just let me back in. But well, I'm so glad it happened with Tannhäuser, because out of all the things I've seen in Bayreuth, this is probably the one where I would be like, okay, good. I missed like the second half of the third act. Okay, I have to live with it. That's how it is, people. If it would be like, have been the Dutchman, or Lohengrin, or Wotan forbid the ring, I would be so pissed. But if it's Tannhäuser, like, I'm okay. So, the next thing is obviously Lohengrin. And this death is not a relief, but it's murder. Yeah, great. Wonderful. So we have obviously Friedrich getting murdered in the third act by Lohengrin when he tries to get into the bedchamber and, well, dass des Leibes kleinstes Glied entreißen würde, Lohengrin, basically, so that he would cut off a teeny tiny bit of Lohengrin's body and he would lose his power, as Ortrud thought, or that she said. We never know. We don't know if it's true or not, because actually Lohengrin does not lose anything of his body. So we don't know if Ortrud is speaking the truth about this, that Lohengrin would lose his power, or if she's just lying to get Friedrich to interrupt everything and to just manipulate him. I think I know what Wagner would have said, but well, he's not here to dispute me in this. As far as we know, he may probably be sitting on my piano and like judging me from there, but I don't see him, so well. Yeah, so Friedrich's is the first death. Then we have obviously these kind of deaths, and we're gonna look into this. Yeah, yada yada yada. Verheim. Yeah, so they say with Ortrud, because Ortrud maybe dies, we don't know, So she cries out and she basically collapses. But we don't know if she dies or not. Don't know that. And also, I think it's more that Elsa dies, because what they say here, and we will have this later again with Kundry, sie sinkt in seinen Armen und siehe zu Boden. So she is like kind of, she collapses into Gottfried's arms soullessly. Would we say that sinking or collapsing soullessly is dying? I would say so. I would maybe say that maybe Ortrud does not die, but and in the end we don't know. And I think this is something that everyone or every production can decide for themselves if they want them to die or not. I know that in the current production in Bayreuth, neither one dies, because Ortrud is the one who stays behind, and then we have Elsa who's leaving with Gottfried, because she realized that Lohengrin is an ass. Anyway, so are they dying? Are they not dying? Probably maybe of shock, both of them. Ortrud dies, or she collapses with a cry out while crying out when she sees Gottfried retransformed from a swan into a boy or a man. And we have Elsa collapsing soullessly into Gottfried's arms when she sees Lohengrin leave. Yeah, probably. Can one die of shock? Probably. But these don't really have a purpose. I would say, unlike in the prior productions, the prior operas, because here we're still in the opera realm, we're still in the pre-exile realm. In the others, the deaths have purpose. The Holländer and Senta's and Elisabeth's deaths have a purpose of setting the guys free, basically. But Friedrich's death doesn't have a purpose. It's mostly for theatrical reasons. Same goes for Ortrud, and same goes for Elsa. I suppose that they probably would come to the conclusion, if Ortrud would not die and Lohengrin would be gone and Elsa would be probably dead and Friedrich would be dead, but Gottfried would still be, well, let's say, transfigurationable. If you get what I mean. I mean, who says that she wouldn't just transform into a raven the next day? So this probably wouldn't be that great of a thing. But these deaths don't have a higher meaning behind them, if you get what I mean. So now, of course, we get to the deaths, which is Tristan and Isolde. And obviously they're kind of confined by life. Let's be real. Let's be romantic. Why not? Let's be romantic. They're confined by the life they have to lead, and by their duties, and by being the queen, and by being the king's stepson. So they cannot be together in life, so they want to be together in death. So again, death is a relief. Death is relief from the confinement, from the real world. Sehnlichst erwarnt, ersehnter Liebestod. And I don't know if that's romantic or just stupid, but I think that matters only if we look at it from what perspective. If we think there's nothing after death, and it's just, it's out, it's black, it's over, then it's stupid. But if we think of it as there is something after this, and then since marriages are till death do us part, then people are not confined anymore through marriage. then it's actually pretty romantic. Because they would be found anywhere. They cannot just leave. The only place where they could be together without the confinements, without the duties, without the vows that she gave in marriage is death. It's as simple and romantic and arguably stupid as that. So you could say that the death does not have as high a purpose as, like, for example, Ava's death, as Senta's death, or that it doesn't have this great impact as Tannhäuser's and the Dutchman's death. But it doesn't have no purpose at all, like we have with Friedrich or with Elsa or potentially with Ortrud. But it's very, very selfish death. Could we say that? It's a very selfish death because, well, if we look at how they die, obviously Isolde dies of a broken heart for about 7 minutes, and Tristan, he fights with Melot, and then he opens his body, and he knows very well that he will be now stabbed. At least that's like in the production that I saw. So I would almost say, if we were in this realm, that what Tristan does is kind of suicide, but kind of help with suicide, if you know what I mean. It's disguised as murder, basically, but it is suicide. And so, again, death is a relief, but for them alone. It's not a relief from a higher power, it's not a relief from... what did we have with Tannhäuser? That he would not... Yeah, never mind. It's not a relief from the burden of life, of from the sins that they've committed, as it is with Tannhäuser or with the Dutchman. But it's really a relief just from the burdens of life, and from the confinements that they had, and from the duties that they had. And I know I'm repeating myself, but it's just as it is. It's a very egoistic relief, I would say. But it's a relief nonetheless, and I suppose they'd be much happier in death. And then we come to Meistersinger. There's no death. There is violence, yes, but there is no active death in this one. So I'm not going to talk about Meistersinger, and this is actually why I currently love Meistersinger so much, because it's just this comedic relief in this world that we unfortunately currently live in. We had like a politician getting stabbed yesterday, and they're still not sure if she's gonna make it. But apparently it was like not a political motive, but out of the family, as far as I have seen, but I'm not sure, obviously. So there's a lot of stuff going on currently, and I think we all need this comedic relief without death. So we're gonna start with the Ring of the Nibelung, and then obviously with the Rheingold. We have a lot of deaths, so we're not gonna go through every single one of them. Obviously we have the fratricide in the beginning, that when Fafner kills Fasold because of, shocking, money. So this is the first time when we have bad motives. So this is actually something that we have in Germany, where there's two different murder things heuristically, and it is determined by what your motives were, and if there's like motives like greed or like, yeah, let's just stay with greed because that's what's important here, then it's called committing murder. It's the difference between Mord and Totschlag, basically. It all depends on the motive, and in this case this is murder because Fafner kills Fasold for the gold and for the money and for the ring, basically. This is the first time that we have that, these motives. So we have that. Doesn't have it also, since we're not in this Christian background anymore that we've had basically in the first three, so where it is a relief, where there is the expectance of going to heaven and stuff, this is not here anymore. Also, as far as I know, when we talk about the afterworld, in the Nordic myths we have, of course, Valhalla and Folkvang, and we have one by Idun, which is for the virgins, and we have Hela. So I don't know if this applies to giants, just saying. So it might be that there's just nothing after this, which is what I would say for most of them. But if not, he's probably going to Hela because, well, he didn't really die in a battle, he was just slain. Yeah, so this is Fafner and Fasold. And I don't think we have that much more. I'm gonna just look at what we've got. Yeah, there's no one else dying in this one. And then we have the Valkyrie, where basically everyone dies, because why not? Sooner or later, I have to say. So obviously we have the fight between Siegmund and Hunding in the second act. So this is a complicated one, because Siegmund, he dies in a fight, which would normally mean that his Valkyrie, who is Brünnhilde, would take him to Valhalla and he would be a hero from then on, and he would die in the last battle and so on. But since Brünnhilde does not take him away but takes his sister away, he's probably either going to Ginnunga Gap, which is kind of the mist in between, which is probably also where Fasold went. When we're talking about he's a giant, don't know if he's got an underworld of himself. And Siegmund does not die a hero, so to speak. There's no Valkyrie taking him away. And here we are kind of, the ring is always different. The ring is always different in every aspect. We have more women. We always have like the Trinity, the three, the perfect three. We have 3 goddesses, 3 gods plus Loge. Loge is the 4th. He's the odd one out. So 3 is always the perfect number, which is not a thing in any of the other plays, in any of the other of Wagner's works. So we always have to look at the ring kind of a bit differently. So there's no purpose whatsoever. It's obviously the theatrical purpose. We have Sieglinde crying out for Siegmund and saying, "Oh God, my brother, he died," and stuff. And of course, it also shatters Brünnhilde's world, because the guy that she loved died, yay, and so on. But it doesn't have a higher purpose. It doesn't have an egoistical background like we have with Tristan and Isolde. Then we have the kind of murder of Hunding, basically, where Wotan sends him to Fricka to tell her that Sigmund's dead, basically, and that she has been, I don't know, revenged, basically. But also, obviously, we talked about this, because Hunding couldn't have survived. Because if he would have had every right to claim Sieglinde back. And considering what their marriage is, which is probably violent, he bought her, we know that, which would not end well for her. Let's say it very, very carefully. So he should not have survived. And also, again, no Valkyrie. And also Wotan says himself, nach Valhall taugt mir nicht. Which means probably he's going to Hela because he simply didn't die in a fight. And I doubt he's a virgin still. Sorry, but my voice is not the best. Yeah. Then we have, if we go on with this, if we are between the pieces, we have Sieglinde dying at Siegfried's birth. And we don't know. We don't know what happened there. I mean, we have what Mime tells us, but Mime is considered one of the bad guys, especially because he tries to kill Siegfried. So we might think that Mime is not telling the truth and saying, "Oh God, I helped her. I found her in the woods. She was in labor and I helped her and I did everything I could, but she died anyway." Probably not. Also, she had to die for theatrical reasons, because if she hadn't died, or if Siegfried would have had parents at all, then someone would have said, "Bro, if a girl tries to give you something to drink and you don't know what it is, let her taste it first. And if she survives it without anything, then you can drink it." Just saying that. So Sieglinde also dies because she's a woman, and because she's in labor, which is particularly sad that women who die in labor go to Hela. She will probably go to Hela, and if she's lucky, then she meets Sigmund there again, and they are together again in a Tristan and Isolde kind of way. Just that since Tristan and Isolde is not that Christian, they are also talking about kind of the black great beyond, kind of, and here we have specifically Hela, where Sieglinde is going, and where probably Sigmund is going as well, because he was not claimed by Valkyrie in death. So probably Hela stepped in and said, taking him, and Sigmund and Sieglinde might be happy after all. I'm kind of sad that she doesn't get the recognition that she does, because she's such an underrated character and what she had to go through. And it's kind of for her death as well. Like, even Hunding gets a great death on stage. Come on, she does not. Because she just dies in childbirth, and this is not big enough for the stage, I don't know. Okay, then we're too far. I know. I have a feather marked for like the end of of the Valkyries, so I can find Siegfried easier. So for Siegfried, for the next part, we of course have the big death, which is only one. It's only Mime who dies. Oh, and Fafner, of course. Forgot the dragon. I'm sorry, Mom. So we have obviously Mime who dies, who we shall not feel sorry for him. And I think there are not that many cases where the bad guys die, if you think about it. Not that many cases. I mean, we could say that Ortrud dies. If she dies, don't know it yet. stated specifically, but we don't have that many scenes where actually the bad guys die. So this is one of them. We have Mime who says, I just wanna, how shall we put this? I just wanna behead Siegfried after he's slain Fafner, yay! And we're like, kill the dwarf, come on, at this point. Also, so we are not to feel sorry for them. But, and this is the big difference, we are to feel sorry for Fafner. Because while Mime, we feel sorry for him in Rheingold, but we do not feel sorry for him at all in Siegfried. Because he's behaving horribly, he's lying, he wants to kill Siegfried and then have the ring for himself and all that. But Fafner gets this whole great dialogue basically with Siegfried, where they say, oh yeah, you're so good, you're the only one who understood me, whatever. And we are to feel sorry for Fafner, and so is Siegfried, but not for Mime. Just keep that in mind. So then obviously we have, this is also easy to find because I read like the love duet so many times that it's basically over at this point. If you look at it like later, this is how it's supposed to look, and this is how it looks. At this point, it's basically just duct taped together at this point. So I can find Götterdämmerung also very easily. Yeah, here you see the duct tape in the middle. Okay, good. So we have a lot of deaths in Götterdämmerung, so we're kind of choosing the big ones. Obviously we have Siegfried's death. She's caused by his own beliefs in good and his being deceived, basically. And we have this great theatrical death. Again, since all the Valkyries are at Valhall waiting for their own death, Siegfried is just going to Hela. That's how it is. Same goes for Brünnhilde. She can't, she's a woman, so she wouldn't be in Valhall anyway. But there's also no Valkyrie to get to Folkwang, so she would go to Hela as well. But she, as well as Siegfried, they have these great theatrical deaths, and we are obviously to feel sorry for Siegfried because he was deceived, and now he's got this moment where he's like, oh yeah, Brünnhilde. There was something. And then we have Gunther, who's really just slain off in the background somewhere. And I have to move, and I have to refill my water bottle. So I'm gonna be back in a second. We're gonna start about Gunther for a second. And one eternity later, she's back. So, with a fresh filled water bottle. I'm glad I looked this up again, because as we have determined, like over the ring basically, we have evil people, such as Fafner, who kind of, how shall I put it? Who kind of get a better death than they deserve. If we can even put it like that. And Gunther is actually one of them. So Gunther is, as we have determined, he's actually a scumbag. If we look at it, like, he can't get a woman to marry him, even though he's a king, and there's nothing that tells him like, oh, maybe it's my character, maybe it's me. But he's like, no, I want the best one. And I deserve the best one. And I will take this guy who just randomly came here, and my sister gives him a love potion, then he can help me by putting on his cap and looking like me and then raping this other woman for me, so then she has to marry me. Like, what? This guy's a scumbag. Let's be real. But he kind of gets this heroic arc, if we can say it like that, where he's like he's trying to say to Hagen, no, don't kill him. And even though he was one of them to determine that Siegfried will die with Hagen and with Brünnhilde. But now he's like, no, don't die. And he's like, with pain, he looks down at Siegfried and he's like, no, I didn't want this to happen. And then later he goes so far as to say, yeah, but the ring, you won't get the ring, even though you killed this guy for me. You won't get the ring. The ring is the ring belongs to my sister, who seduced him with a love potion and whom he didn't actually love. And by the way, I listened to this guy saying that he's in love with my wife, but the ring belongs to the other woman who seduced him with a love potion. Like, what? I think actually Gunther is from the men. I mean, in total there's still the E-rolls ahead of them. But from the men, I think Gunther is the one guy who bugs me the most and who's unnerving me the most, honestly. Although he was pretty funny, like in the current Bayreuth production, as we all know, he's like taking substances and basically not there anymore, and has this t-shirt with "Who the fuck is Grane?" I'm like, okay, good. He's just basically taken so much substances that his head is through, basically. But mythologically speaking, and in here speaking, he's an ass. Let's be real. And then he gets slain by Hagen for defending the property of his sister. And I'm like, why? Why? Why does he get this heroic death? I mean, there's no Valkyrie to take him off to Valhalla or to Folkwang anyway, but still, why? No one likes this guy. No one. I doubt even his sister likes him. He's a king and he can't find a woman. What does that tell us? Like, people, really. Could have, probably out of his rank, he could have everyone. I mean, look at the guys of the world. The rich, older guys who are not even kings. They can have any woman they want by just getting a check in front of their noses. I mean, there are better women who are like, yeah, no, I'm out. And he can't get a woman? What do you think that says about his character? Please, people. Anyway, like, Gunther, yeah. He dies heroically for defending his sister's property. Yeah. Wonderful. And he dies in battle. Yay, us. Great. Wonderful. Super. So the next thing that we have, which is wonderfully theatrical, but like not pretty, is Hagen's death, who gets obviously drowned by the Rhine maidens. And it's probably their personal revenge for Eiberich stealing the gold. And now they're drowning his son. Yay! Great thing. So where are we? Who is also dying? Yeah, Alberich's not dying. Hagen is dying, as we said, but he's one of the ones who does not get this arc. He's like Mime, so basically all the Nibelungen and their offspring, Hagen, they don't get a pretty death. Funnily, also Hunding. So they don't get a pretty death, and they don't get, I don't know, an arc in their death like Fafner does and like Gunther does. Also, we could argue about Fasold, supposedly because because of his greed for Freya, he didn't get a great death, but just, yeah, well, he died in battle. We can count this as a good death. But we can very easily say who deserves a good death and who doesn't. Which is kind of unfortunate because Sieglinde obviously doesn't deserve a good death. Actually, funnily, like in the current production, still pains me, the current production of Bayreuth, which will not be the current production very soon. In this one, both Hunding and Hagen survive, so we have many more people who actually make it in this production. There are not as many deaths as there are usually, because Hunding, obviously, if we're not in a god's world where Fricka is among the dead heroes, then Wotan can't kill him to get him to Fricka. Then it's just, yeah, come on, go to Fricka, leave. And I think Hagen, if I remember it correctly, he just collapses. Like, it's been a year since I've seen Götterdämmerung. This year I've only seen Rheingold and Valkyrie. I think he just collapses, but he doesn't actually die. Yeah. Same goes for Gunther, I think. So, who also dies? Siegfried is dead. We had that. Hagen is dead. We had that. Alberic doesn't die. Gunther dies. Brünnhilde, yeah, obviously. Brünnhilde has the biggest death. She has literally 20 minutes. Or I think she sings 15 minutes and then there's 5 minutes music after that, which is absolutely beautiful. She has this magnificent death, which is the most beautiful music, with everything, all the motives of the ring are basically in this death. And again, we have a suicide, a glorified suicide in this case. We have another theme here. And also we have, of course, the big deaths in the very end of the Ring of the Nibelung. And that is basically everyone. Because as we know that when Brünnhilde dies and she says to the fire that it should go to Valhall and burn down Valhall and everyone who's in it, which means all the heroes that the Valkyries collected over the centuries, which means all the gods, all the Valkyries. And we don't see that, we hear it, which is really beautiful because we hear the motive of Valhall basically crumbling and dissolving into nothing, which is the beauty of this first motive that vanishes in the end of the ring is the Rhine Maidens, via Waggewogge Welle, weil it's a Wiegelwaggelaweier, we know that. This is the first one to go, which is basically Midgard, which is the earth. The second one that goes is Valhall, which is Asgard, the gods. And the one that remains after that is love. Can't have a prettier ending than that, I suppose. Even though Hagen kind of destroys it by, like, after the great monologue of Brünnhilde by him saying, "Zurück vom Ring!" And then he dies as well. It's like, meh. So basically, again, everyone dies. The one who are not granted a death, as in we don't get it written down clearly. This is the end of the world, everyone dies, or Alberic dies, or Gutrune dies, or the Rhine Maidens die, are these 5. Everyone else dies. And this is what I thought was so magnificent about the Schwarzring, is that in his production we see the hanged god, Wotan. Shockingly hanged. So this is, we have like Hagen collapsing, saying "Zurück vom Ring," while the Rhine Maidens get the child away, and then it opens in the background, and we have Wotan hanging from the ceiling. And this is the big, and he's getting this death, which is theatrically great, let's say it like this. So again, a lot of death. Unfortunately, there's a lot of that's not on stage, but also like, how would you pay these people? You can't pay like Wotan and Fricka and the other gods to just come in for Götterdämmerung for the last scene and then like just get fired up. So now we only have one thing left, which is Parsifal. And of course, we have a bit of death, we have a few wounds, mainly the one with Amfortas. We have the kind of undead, Amfortas' undead father. Can we say that? Doesn't stand here. Wonderful. It's not written down. But we have Titorel, who is like not alive and not dead, in this kind of in between. I doubt that we even see him. I don't see Parsifal that much, and if I do, I only see the second act. But yeah, we don't have that much. The main death in Parsifal, which again, it's I wouldn't have called it Parsifal even. I would have called it Kundry. Because it's not really about Parsifal. It's really about Kundry, about the many lives that she's led. And we have kind of come full circle to the Dutchman, who is also cursed to not die. And the same goes for Kundry. So they are both cursed to not being able to die, but all they want is dying. But they have to be freed from this curse in a different way. For the Dutchman, of course, an angel has to be faithful until death. And for Kundry, it's basically this notion that someone has to turn her avances down. Basically, which happens in the second act when Parsifal does, and the whole building of Klingsor collapses. But it's basically really very much about Kundry and her craving to be dead. So again, full circle moment kind of going on, and she is happy almost. So she gets, as we know in the third act, she gets christened by Parsifal, and then later, when she's the first woman ever to see the Grail and to be in this society, she sinks. And now we are going kind of back to Lohengrin. Kundry sinks with a view to him Parsifal, slowly in front of Parsifal, soullessly to the floor. And there we have that soullessly again. So this is why I think that Elsa dies in Lohengrin, because it's very, very clear that Kundry dies, and this is the same collapses soullessly, sinks soullessly to the floor thing going on. So again, for her, death is a relief of the many, many centuries that she had to stay on this world since she was Herodias in the Bible, basically. Whew. Yeah, there's a lot of death. There's also a few deaths, especially in Tristan, that we skipped. Because, yeah, well, of course, Covenal dies, Melot dies. Okay, good. Like, who cares? But so, what do we have? We have death as a relief. Suicide being glorified, basically. We have in the ring, we have the big difference if they get a good death or a bad death. As in how they die, if they get their last moments, if they get a big soliloquy in their death, like even Fafner kind of does, like Siegfried does, like Brünnhilde does, or if they just vanish, or they just fall down without a fight, like Sieglinde does, or like Hunding does. Yeah. Or they're not granted a death at all, like Alberich or like Gudrune. Yeah. Whew, a lot of death, I suppose. Death is always horrible, obviously. But I suppose it makes life easier for many people if you think of it as saying they're freed from the duties of their life, from the aches of their bodies. I suppose that makes it easier, or that you say now they can be with their forever person forever, if it's in Hela or if it's in the great black beyond. Yeah. Unfortunately, again, suicide gets glorified a lot of times, and unfortunately only for women. There's no guy who commits suicide. There's guys who wish death upon themselves, but there's mostly Tristan who has like this assisted suicide thing, where like Melot wants to kill him, and Siegfried's like, Tristan's like, yeah, okay, here's my chest. If you put it here, then this would be great. So there's this assisted suicide, but there is not the actual thing where the guy goes into the fire or jumps off a cliff or commits suicide in whatever way Elisabeth commits suicide. Yeah. Also, because this is unfortunately now a trend, I'm not suicidal. I have not been for like 10 years, okay? There's been like a few days, like during school, when it was really hard for me, when I was like, but I'm not suicidal anymore. I'm very, very happy with my life. I'm very happy with my family. And I'm very thankful for everything that I'm granted by Wotan, by the All-Father. And I do not think of committing suicide, just because this seems to be a trend with YouTubers. Just wanted to say this, just wanted to put this out there at the end of this episode. Okay, so this have been the deaths of the Wagnerian works. Again, very much glorified, very much freeing, very much does someone deserve a good death? Does someone not deserve a good death? Is it just sometimes too ugly to die on stage? Like if you die during childbirth, I don't think anyone would want to see that. I don't think Wagner wanted to write that. But yeah, anyway. Thank you so much for listening to my rambling today. Have a nice day.